This is what's left of Mosul's old city, the last stand of ISIS after a brutal 9-month siege. Entire neighborhoods flattened by airstrikes. Thousands dead under the rubble. And for those who escaped Mosul alive, this is their foreseeable future. The United Nations estimates the battle for Mosul displaced more than 700,000 civilians. Most are living in the 20 or so camps in the area run by the Iraqi and Kurdish governments, with support from the UN and aid agencies, sleeping in tents where temperatures reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Shayma Ali escaped Mosul's old city with her husband and 3 children. When we met her, she was too scared to show her face. She said during the 9-month siege there was no work, no food, and constant shelling. Her family survived by eating birdseed and drinking rainwater.
Newborn babies were dying from hunger, and when we took the children to the ISIS hospital to get them some food, they told us, if they die, it's for the sake of God. Those were very bad days.
As the Iraqi army fought to liberate her neighborhood, she says ISIS fighters kept her family and 6 others as prisoners, trapped in one house.
For 5 days, we were human shields in a house booby-trapped by ISIS. The bombing was very violent. We lost many relatives. We lost my uncle and 2 of my cousins. We lost the hope to live.
How did you handle this as a mother? How did you talk to your children about what was happening?
I said to my children, let's pray to God to get out of here, and if we live, I will give you any food you want. Don't be afraid if I die or your father dies. Someone will give you food and take care of you. God will not forget anybody.
That constant fear of death had already defined 3 years of occupation under ISIS. This was once a fountain park in the middle of town. We're surrounded by a pharmacy, food shops, a mosque. ISIS used it as a site for public execution. They brought Iraqi soldiers here, doctors who refused to treat ISIS fighters, all of them executed in front of a public, forced to watch it on a big screen. These ISIS videos show public punishments routine in Mosul. Shayma Ali says ISIS executed her father, an Iraqi policeman, and brutalized children simply for cursing.
I swear they cut the head off a 9-year-old. He was playing soccer and missed a goal, and he shouted, "God damn!" After that, ISIS went to his family and said, "We are sorry, but we killed the child to make an example of him."
Ali stopped sending her children to schools, like this one taken over by ISIS, which used its curriculum to radicalize and indoctrinate children. These ISIS videos show children being taught about weapons, and these are textbooks where tanks and guns were used as examples for math problems. ISIS even forced some of the brainwashed children to become soldiers, calling them their cubs of the caliphate. 12-year-old Ahmed escaped that fate.
Did you like school?
I like school, but I don't like school with those guys. They were telling us, writing down in the books, that you need to be with us, carry weapons, and fight with us. If you should become a suicide bomber, you will go straight to heaven.
Ahmed stopped going to school, and like so many children of Mosul, he and his brother have not seen the inside of a classroom for years. He says he feels safe now in the camp, but can't forget the horrors he witnessed.
I saw them collect people, and they tortured and killed them. They stoned people to death. At night, I have nightmares where someone comes to capture and kill me. I wake up terrified and shouting. I will remember this forever.
The memories haunt every family we met. Mahmoud and his 6 children are also from Mosul's old city. His eldest daughter, 17-year-old Rahma, once dreamed of being a doctor, but quit school at 14 when her father married her off to a cousin. He hoped that might keep ISIS from kidnapping her.
They arrested him, and then they paraded them all around Mosul to scare people. They shot him in the head twice, and then they dumped him in the river.
2 weeks later, the Iraqi army told them it was safe to leave their homes. Their family and dozens of others were making their way to an army outpost, when an ISIS suicide bomber tried to prevent them from escaping.
He shouted, "Where are you going? Are you going to the army? I will not let you." He knew that we were going to the army, so he blew himself up.
His 14-year-old daughter, Saida, says all she can remember is the screaming of so many mothers and children.
Like a horror film, children cut into two. Some of them had shrapnel in them, and their mothers were dead in front of them.
Her mother and 4 other sisters were killed in the explosion, along with, they say, more than 70 others.
So this is shrapnel.
The entire family suffered injuries. 5-year-old Isra still has shrapnel lodged in her head. She hasn't spoken or eaten much since the explosion. 10-year-old Shalal lost his toes in the blast and is too embarrassed to play with the other boys in the camp. Saida is so traumatized by the murders of her mother and siblings, she rarely leaves the family's tent. And instead of going to school set up in the camp, Rahma, the eldest, now takes care of the family.
I am their sister and their mother now. I teach them, clean them, take care of them. They remember my mom, but they are trying to forget.
Some children are back in classes like these, run by the NGO Save the Children. I want to be a teacher, this girl says, because I love school. And this boy wants to be a photographer. It all seemed so normal. Children talking about what they want to be when they grow up, until one girl asked me to take her picture. They shot my brother in the head, she said, still smiling for this photo. Agencies like Save the Children and Unicef do what they can to help, but they say the need is overwhelming and especially challenging because more than half of the Mosul refugees are under the age of 18.
What makes me awake sometimes at night is the possibility that we will witness lost generation.
Maulid Warfa is UNICEF's chief officer in the region.
We see children that are coming out from the areas that are now retaken. Some of them are wounded, some of them are dehydrated, some of them are malnourished, some of them are unaccompanied. It's not one or the other, it's all of them.
UNICEF has been able to reunite over 1,300 children with their families.
So you still have over 1,000 that are unaccompanied?
Yes, and it's not only those 1,000 that are already in the hands of case managers. There could be many more that are coming.
Many of them are brought here to Mosul General Hospital. ISIS set fire to it when they left, yet it still remains the only functioning hospital left in Mosul. Surgeon Hassan Ibrahim says half of the 250 patients he sees every day are children.
This is the pediatric ward.
Yeah.
And many have obvious signs of malnutrition.
All the time they need eat nothing but the grass and wheat seeds for each age. And this is signs of malnutrition.
Iraqi soldiers found 7-year-old Ghalib all alone when his neighborhood was liberated. His arm was fractured and his body riddled with burns and shrapnel. He was like the other thousands of children who arrived to hospitals with no family. But he was one of the lucky ones. Shortly after our visit, his mother found him. Here he is with his little sister.
This whole structure seems to have been hit pretty badly.
Doctors and nurses here are struggling to cope with few resources, staff, and medicine. This is their makeshift pharmacy. Many of Mosul's sick and wounded can't even get to the hospital. In a village only 2 miles away, this woman says her young daughter has dysentery from the water, but she's not been able to get her treated. She and others are clamoring at this food distribution site, and they say they're starving.
The warplanes destroyed our houses. We need electricity and water. We need our homes to be rebuilt. We are in the middle of nowhere.
Back in the camps, miles from Mosul, the displaced like Shayma Ali say their city may be liberated, but their home no longer exists.
Do you have any idea what you're going to do now?
Our destiny is unknown, and it's impossible to go back to Mosul because our houses are gone. Our homes, our streets, there is no life in Mosul. Our neighborhood in the old city is dead. Many people died, and the life, It's dead.